Ed Paget here. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you some great exercises that you can do to strengthen your core even if you've had spinal fusion to help stabilize your scoliosis. First exercise I want to do with you is a simple bridge. So we're going to get down to the floor, and you can do that any way that's suitable for you. So we can kneel, maybe use some support if you want, hands on the floor, take one leg through. Many different ways to get down to the floor, but do what's appropriate for you and the condition of your back. And when you're onto the floor here, we want to work on strengthening the posterior chain, which are the muscles up your back. We're going to do that by simply lifting your pelvis up. But as you do it, I want you to keep your core muscles, your abdominal muscles, strong. And the reason for that is we don't want to extend the spine. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to take a deep breath in here, relax as much as possible, and as I breathe out, I'm going to tense through my butt, hamstrings, pelvic floor, and then push my hips up. And so here I'll feel tension in my buttocks and my hamstrings. But what I don't want to do is push too high and actually end up extending through my lower back. So rarely is the sacrum, which is the bone at the base of your spine and in between the two hip bones, rarely is that fused to your lumbar spine in scoliosis. And what can happen is the rest of the spine is fused, and you end up getting too much movement at that sacral lumbar junction. And so if we extend here, that's exactly what will happen. So you want to keep some tension in your abdominals and keep a straight line between your knees, hips, and shoulders. Hold this 5 to 10 seconds and then slowly return down. Breathe in, relax in between each movement. You can let your stomach muscles relax here. Breathe in, breathe out. And as you breathe out, you push up. Again, holding this position. Try not to go into too much extension. And then breathe out and come back down. Good. So this is what we call a bridge for obvious reasons. Next, we're going to do some leg lowers. We're going to get into a position where our knees are above our hip joints here. Now this can be quite stressful for some people onto their lower back or even into their abdominals. So you can do one leg at a time. But if you feel strong enough, I want you to hold this position. Be careful not to let your back arch up away from the surface that you're lying on. So keep your abdominals strong, and if you can, even push your lower back down into the mat. And from here, you're going to hold that position with the pelvis being posteriorly rotated and lower down one leg and then the other leg. You may hear a click or a clunk as you do that. That's simply one of the hip flexor muscles, the psoas, flicking over the front of your hip, and that's quite normal. If it bothers you, you can actually take your leg out at a slight angle, and that will be a more challenging exercise, but it may get rid of the click. Now, if this is easy for you, you can actually bring in the arms as well, and you do opposite arm and leg. Now, I'm not changing the angle of my knee, so it's not extending straight, it's just going straight down to the ground. Try and coordinate the toe touch and the thumb touch to happen at the same time, whilst remembering to breathe and keep your lower back on the ground. Okay, so now we've had an exercise for the posterior chain and we've had an exercise for the anterior chain. We're going to start firing up some different muscles around the hips. I want you to get into an all-fours position. And if this hurts your wrists, I actually have a video on a wrist stretch, which I'll link in the comments below. In this position, I want you to tuck your pelvis just a little bit so you're not dropping down through your lower back. Everything is strong, your spine is relatively neutral, but you're holding it strong with your core. Now from here, you're going to push up so your knees are no longer touching the ground. So we're in a crawling position. From this crawling position, I want to see if you can lift one leg and then the other leg. Now, if you find that very easy, we're going to go to lifting one hand. So here, you really got to tense through your core, even your pelvic floor. Take one hand to a shoulder, come back, take the other hand to a shoulder. And you can simply hold those movements for a second or two, or you can go back and forth or even around the whole body. So one hand, one leg, other leg. If you find that very easy, what I'd like you to do is to try and take one hand and one leg, other hand and the other leg. Try and keep any extra movements that might be happening in your hips to a minimum, and that's really, really going to help your core muscles. Now from here, there's another progression, which is essentially called crawling. And we can crawl backwards and forwards as far as we want, but without me disappearing off the edge of the mat, I'm just going to crawl backwards and forwards a little bit. Now a little tip for crawling is to actually pre-position yourself with one knee forward and one hand forward. And then look how far that your knees can go and make sure the distance is the same with your hands. So I'm simply going backwards and forwards, trying to get my knee and hand to land at the same time. This type of crawling should be relatively simple for most people. There might be a coordination problem to start with, but once you get the hang of it, it's usually quite simple. So we're actually going to make it a little bit more difficult. And the way we're going to do that is to lift up the knees, so they're about an inch or 5 centimeters off the ground, and you're going to very slowly try and crawl forwards and backwards without letting your back arch up or go down. And that means you've got to move your feet the exact same distance as your hands, otherwise you end up like this, or sometimes like this. So we want this to be 90 degrees, this to be 90 degrees, and this to be 90 degrees. So we're crawling forwards and getting a cross lateral, which means opposite hand and foot moving at the same time. And you can crawl backwards and forwards. We start 15 seconds, move up to 30 seconds, and then go for a minute. So all those exercises are going to make your core nice and strong, no matter what type of spinal fusion surgery you have had in the past. Hey, I'm going to wrap this video up now, but if you've enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share my channel with a friend who you think will appreciate and enjoy this content as well. If you've got scoliosis and have not had fusion yet, I want to tell you about a course that I run. It's called the Scoliosis Correction Protocol. And you can join this course and learn everything you need to know to manage your scoliosis from a movement point of view. So if you're pre-surgery or you want to avoid surgery, this course could be what you're looking for. Click the link in the first comment below or in the description below, and I'll see you in my course.